Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
My makeup is very dark today because I am out of my regular makeup that should be here anytime. Otherwise, last week was the worst week I've had in 1,000 years, it seems like. So this weekend was like recovery for me, and I'm much better. I
Good.
went out, got some sleep, and today it felt really nice outside, which is not a thing I normally see in June. So that's nice. And so I was like, I'm going to walk home today. And I went over to GameStop and went and bought some games that I didn't need, but I have now. And then went to the Amazon Go store and got dinner. Walked home, and my feet are going to hurt the most they've ever hurt tomorrow because I wore the wrong shoes to walk home in today. But otherwise, mentally, I'm well.
Good.
Physically, probably not so much, but that's fine.
I am still incredibly depressed and thinking that throwing myself into traffic might sound like a good time. But my smile is less forced than last week.
Oh, look at
so
you.
Baby steps.
That's all we can ask for.
Because this weekend I too had this weekend was terrible except for one night. I was gonna say this weekend I too had a really good weekend, but actually no. I had a terrible Friday night was the Luminaria ceremony, which is part of the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life, where they have all the white bags with people write messages of people who've died from cancer, and they light candles and play sad music. And so the Luminaria event was Friday. So my tears were legitimate, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I had to run that event. And then Saturday was a horrible day during the day. I went to a memorial where I found out that the person whose the memorial was for may or may not have died because of nursing home neglect.
Love when that happens.
Love when that happens. So fucking angry. And then I went from being angry to being devastated and sobbing for sitting on the floor of my shower, sobbing, not being able to stand up and not knowing what temperature the water was, level sobbing, which I don't think I've been there in years.
No, sometimes a little cathartic.
Yeah. But then Saturday night, I went out with a friend and got so drunk, which is not why it was a good night. It just didn't hurt.
Well,
because what we went out to, my dear, dear friend Tracy and I went to see Joe Dombrowski, who is Mr. D times 3.
I'm his friend.
You're his friend?
Yeah. The one that lives down here near the city. He lives in Mount Vernon.
I don't know where the fuck he lives. He's a kindergarten
Balding.
teacher. Yeah. He's got cute hair.
Hold on.
Yeah, let's find this. He is it a TikTok comedian kindergarten teacher?
Oh no.
No.
Well, what'd you say his name is?
Dombrowski.
Oh, mine's Dimbusky.
Oh, okay. Joe Dombrowski is a kindergarten teacher / TikTok comedian who is quite honestly the funniest person I've ever met. He's the one who has all the videos who are things that the kindies said today unprompted, and just tells you all the horrible shit 5-year-olds say to you. Tracy and I literally did not stop laughing for the entire 2 hours we were there. I could not breathe, because there's something that if you are not a teacher, you will never be able to understand about the catharsis of just shit-talking 5-year-olds. Because, you love them so much. You also have never hated anyone so much.
I believe that.
It was amazing. He's amazing. If he is coming to your city anytime soon, absolutely go. It is so worth it. So worth it.
Like a comedy skit.
It was
I forgot
fantastic.
the TikTok that I loved. He's from Florida. Ben Brainerd.
Oh yeah, Ben. I follow him too. There's like a bunch of them that are just like teachers, like honest teacher vibes and Mr. D times three. And then there's oh god, I can't remember his name. He's like very, very gay. And he goes, okay, pre-K teacher, pause. Love him. Basically, if you are a TikTok teacher comedian, please send me a link and I will absolutely follow you because that is the only brand of comedy I understand anymore.
And she will send them to me and I will watch them next year.
Correct. So that was my high. It's so funny. My best friend at my school teaches health for the 7th and 8th graders. And every time they have a health class, they start the class with, what was your high today and your low today? And I feel like that's really what we should do at the beginning of the podcast is what is our high and what is our low? Because either we're like, nothing is good, or we're like, here's everything great that we've ever done at once. Like we have no balance.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I had a high and a low. They were very extreme low and very extreme high, but
see, that's my problem too, is my very extreme high was comedy and my very extreme low was crying on the floor of my shower. So like
my low was last week as a whole. And my high was drinking with friends.
Yeah. Somehow both of our highs involved alcohol, and if that doesn't explain who we are.
Look, I'm basically 30. You are 30. We're just trying to make it day to day.
Facts.
We're adults. We're allowed to drink alcohol. That's the rule.
That is true.
You know what else is true?
What is that?
Probably our spiritual AF card.
One can hope. Although last week it did attack me.
So what had happened was I dropped the box last week when I was putting it away. Everything fell out, and so now I have to make sure we're not repeating cards.
Oh, no.
I think I put them back mostly in order, but that was a repeat, as was that one.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait, maybe you're
just picking from the wrong end.
Well, I think there were 2 on this end, 3. This one, I bet.
Okay.
This one is how we should be every day. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm.
What if you just want to set yourself on fire for shits?
No. But that's not what this says. That's what I say. That's my rule. This just says you're not required to set yourself on fire. It doesn't say you can't.
Oh, okay. But you say I can't.
But I say you cannot because I love you and do not want you to die in flames. Which is very similar to a scene we had this week.
Oh, yeah.
In our episode.
Interesting. Like, nice segue you got there.
Thank you, lighting people on fire. It's where I go.
So, we are talking about Stargate, SG-1, Season 1, Episode 13.
Lucky number 13?
It is called Hathor, and it is rated 7.4 stars, which is only slightly more than last week, which is probably fair because it was only slightly better than last week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know that 7.4 is where I'd go. I might go a little higher, but it wasn't great.
A lot of thoughts about this episode in the end that are very.
I'm sure. My favorite moment of this episode, which has nothing to do with the episode itself, so I will tell you beforehand, is I was watching it with my mom yesterday, and when the credits started playing, she looked at Richard Dean Anderson and she goes, God, he looks so young there. Like, I know I've seen him in multiple shows that were older than this, but for some reason that picture, like in the season 1 credits, just looks so young. I go, Mom, this episode came out before George was born, my little brother. And she goes, oh my God. I was like, yeah, season 1, all of this is before your son was born. George is 24. But that's because this is, in fact, the 25th anniversary of Stargate, and there's so much happening.
Hey!
Yeah, this summer there's like a big Stargate thing happening because it's the 25th anniversary, and I just keep trying to figure out how it works, and I don't know. So once I actually have time to decipher the internet, I will share that thing with you.
Yes. Is it near me?
No, it's online.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fair.
So I guess yes, but no. It came out on October 24th, 1997.
Happy birthday, Mom! 25 years ago.
Okay. Perfect. The number one song was, in fact, still Candle in the Wind 1997, which it will be for the entire rest of 1997. Mm-hmm. The number one movie, because we are now toward the end of October, so obviously we need to switch into spooky season.
Of course.
And the number one movie was I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes. For those of you who were not following our social media last Halloween, last October, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same. Yeah. I watched a different horror movie every night and posted about it on social. And I read I Know What You Did Last Summer as a book when I was younger, but I never watched the movie. And so I watched the movie, and then the other two movies that came after it and the season of the new show that just came out last October, all in like a week, because I just like dove in. The third one sucks. Don't watch the third movie. It's not worth anything. But the first two are good. The first one's obviously the best, but the second one's also good. And the book is phenomenal.
The first one also broke the record for highest slasher film opening weekend.
It had an amazing cast.
Yeah. There were, in fact, no events that day. I could find nothing.
Except my mom's birthday.
Well, it was your mom's birthday. But, like, worldwide, nothing really. So, there's that. The episode was directed by Brad Turner, who is returning. Mm-hmm. The story was written by David Karen and J. Larry Carroll. David Karen has written and produced over 200 films and TV shows, but this is the only episode of the show that he wrote.
I got thrown for a second because one of the writers on Bates is Carrie Aaron. I thought that's who you were saying at first. I was like, oh my goodness.
No. He is most known for writing an independent film called The Red Queen, which did win some awards, but like I've never heard of it.
Based on the book?
I have no idea.
Okay. I'll research later.
Okay. Jay Larry, the other writer, is a producer and a writer, mostly known for producing. He has written like a ton of Star Trek episodes, but this is the only episode of Stargate that he wrote. Interestingly, though, the thing that he's the most well known for is neither a producing or writing credit. He was the head editor for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Oh, look at him tying together sci-fi and horror.
I know. So there is that. The teleplay was by our friend Jonathan Glassner. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Our guest star I'm going to talk about is Sue Ann Braun, who in fact played Hathor. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. She started in South African TV and like does not have a very wide spanning career. She doesn't have a lot of credits, but I do know her fairly well for something that is going to seem very odd in comparison to her portrayal of Hathor. Because Sue Ann Braun, obviously this came out 25 years ago, is an older woman at this point, and she has played Mrs. Donatelli in all 4 of the Princess Switch movies.
I've not seen those, but I've only heard good things about them.
To be fair, they're exactly what you would think of like a garbage movie.
This is the one with Vanessa Hudgens, right?
Correct.
Okay.
They're like exactly as garbage as you would expect like a shitty Netflix Christmas movie to be, but like in the best way.
That's what I've heard. Everyone loves it. They want to watch it forever.
So yeah, that is her claim to fame is the Princess Switch movies.
Since I haven't watched that, is there anything else I've seen her in?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I think she had like 37 credits and half of them were South African TV. So like, no, unfortunately. She's very pretty though.
Very pretty, yes. Excellent choice for Hathor.
Yes. Our little blurb says, a Goa'uld who has taken on the persona of the Egyptian sex goddess Hathor casts her deadly spell over all the men on the Stargate base. As one does when you are an Egyptian sex goddess.
And I will say I accidentally read that before I watched it. And I was like, this one actually doesn't tell you the entire story before you watch the episode. It just tells you what it's about.
Yeah. It was a good blurb. Mm-hmm. So we start in Palenque, Mexico, in a like Mayan pyramid.
Sarcophagus.
And there's an Egyptian sarcophagus inside of a Mayan pyramid.
And every time I think sarcophagus, I think esophagus, and vice versa. So I had a very confusing few minutes.
That would be confusing because those are not the same.
Very much not.
But I had a moment where I said, excuse me, how the fuck would an Egyptian sarcophagus be in a Mayan temple? Turns out the archaeologists in question also had that same question. And then they said, but one time I read this paper by this guy named Dr. Daniel Jackson. And I said, fucking of course you wrote a paper.
We learned they got like
they open said sarcophagus. And this pissed me off. Because like, why? How many mummy movies need to exist before we stop opening the sarcophagi when we go into?
So at this time, I don't know if the mummy movies I think started coming out in 98. So to be fair.
Okay. No, the Brendan Fraser mummy movie came out in 1999. Mm-hmm. But like.
Just like in general?
But like movies about mummies. Yes. First movie ever about mummies. 1932.
Yes. I will say, though, this was 25 years ago, and we're still opening things we shouldn't be opening.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was not only pissed off at the archaeologist in the movie, or in the TV show. I was just pissed off in general about, we've been telling you since 1932 to stop fucking opening things.
Years.
Stop fucking opening things inside pyramids.
Yes.
And yet.
And for good measure, don't dig things out of the sea. Just leave them where they are.
Stop touching things.
We're going to end up in Jumanji soon.
When I teach 5th graders, and every day I say, is it yours? No. So then why are you touching it? Apparently, I need to fucking say that to archaeologists too.
Yes.
Is it yours? No. Then don't fucking touch it.
Yes.
Dear British Museum, was it yours? No. So then why'd you fucking touch it? Anyway, they open it.
Right.
And this beautiful, beautiful woman appears and fucking murders them all.
And she has the best nail color. Like, I would like to know what that color is. So I'll just hit her up.
Yeah. So after Hathor kills them, they do figure out that it is Hathor in the sarcophagus because they can read Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Right. Why not?
Why not? And the assistants who are not dead say, you know what? send this sarcophagus to Daniel Jackson. Because again, why not?
Because we all laughed him out of his doctorness, and now we realize he was right and we need him.
Yeah. So they are looking at the sarcophagus, and they're like, this looks just like that thing that was on Ra's ship that brought Daniel and Sharae back to life. So again, unfortunately, the movie is canon. But they were like, oh, so that's great. They're looking at their sarcophagus. They're trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden somebody comes in and is like, hey, there's a chick here. She just like walked up into the mountain base. And they're like, why? They're like, well, she wants to see the gate. That's not ominous at all. So then they go to see her, and Daniel's like, oh, that's Hathor. She's the Egyptian goddess of fertility, inebriety, and music. Which then my favorite line in the entirety of Stargate happens. This was on Reddit the other day, and I was laughing. I was like, yes, we're coming to that episode. Daniel's like, oh yeah, she's the goddess of fertility, inebriety, and music. And Jack says, so sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And he was like, yes, basically. And Daniel's like, can we just like uncuff her? Why? The thing is, the things that happen after this moment, I understand why they happened, even if I don't agree with them. Why did you uncuff her?
I think he was already taken by then.
Daniel, Dr. Daniel Jackson, is without a doubt the stupidest smart person I've ever encountered.
Yes.
He is so naive and trusting. It's a miracle he's made it this far. He should have died at least 50 times.
Bless him.
So he uncuffs her, and she kisses his hand and blows some weird purple smoke shit at him. And then she's like, where's Ra? And General Hammond is like, don't tell her shit. We don't know her. We don't trust her. Don't tell her anything.
Right.
And she's like, I was drawn here by the Chepa Eye, which is the Egyptian word for the Stargate.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack's like, hey, General Hammond, I think we should probably call the psych ward.
Right.
And Hammond's like, you're not wrong, but also she knows some shit. So we should figure out what she knows first.
And then send her to the psych ward.
And then she says, you there with the crown of marble, which might be my new favorite way to call someone bald of all time.
And Jack just looks at him. She might mean you, sir. Definitely means him.
And she's like, you're in charge here. And he's like, yeah. She's like, then come, let me kiss your hand. And he's like, nope. And Daniel's like, just do it. That's not sketchy or anything.
Right.
And she then blows the weird purple shit on his hand too.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, if Daniel is the most naive person in the world, everyone who trusts Daniel alone with a woman is the second most naive person in the world. Right. Because Daniel is a fucking idiot. So, but, Daniel knows shit about something. So they married. So Daniel gets left alone with Hathor to find out what she knows. And as soon as they're alone, she fucking Gould eyes at him. And then it's like, tell me everything about Ra. And he's like, Ra's dead. And she's like, oh, thank God. Wasn't expecting that one.
You know.
And so she goes, well, now that Ra's dead, I will need a new king. So you will be mine. I choose you. You are my beloved. Let me kiss you. And I would like to know what it is about Egyptian women being unnecessarily drawn to Daniel Jackson.
Look.
I mean, granted, I also would probably kiss Daniel Jackson.
Yeah. I think we just don't have a lot of other women who are drawn to people. We have the one who gives Jack the marriage cake.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, Carter's the only one with any attraction to anyone. And could you see Carter and Daniel Jackson? Like, not at all. So, to be fair, we just haven't had enough women. So, it could be not just Egyptian women. It could be all of them.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. So Daniel comes back to the group and it's like, yeah, so she is in fact a Goa'uld, but like, don't be mad about it because she's on our side.
Everything's fine.
And everyone is like, that doesn't make sense. And he's like, no, it's great.
Right.
We're all good here. She wants to help us. She actually wants to come down here and brief you guys. And General Hammond's like, send her in.
He's like, absolutely.
And she's apparently been living stuck on Earth in 2,000 years in a stasis chamber in this little sarcophagus. So she doesn't even know anything about any of the other stuff that they've done. And she's going to help them destroy Apophis as revenge for the things that Ra made her do.
Right.
And Jack and Sam are like, what the actual fuck is going on? So she comes in looking all sexy, trying to talk to everybody. And Teal'c is like, no, ma'am.
Yes.
And she's like, you're a Jaffa. You serve Apophis. And he's like, bitch, I don't serve any Goa'uld.
Word for word.
And she's like, well, if you hate Apophis, we have the same enemy, which obviously means that we're friends. And Teal'c's like, I don't fucking think that's how that works.
I don't think that's how that works at all. Yeah.
So she tries to kiss him too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sam is like, do y'all see yourselves right now? What?
Yeah, at this point, I went on this whole rant about how I couldn't be in the military because you're supposed to like stand down if you're like under rank or whatever.
Yeah.
And there is zero part of me that would have stood down. And then everything I was thinking, Sam started saying, and I was like,
yeah. Oh, okay. Sam was like, okay, this is not working. And they're like, Captain, we outrank you. And she's like, yeah, but like, you're wrong.
Morons right now.
So then they're like, here, ma'am, in a skimpy outfit who is clearly trying to like
take over the
kill
world.
us all. Let's give you a tour of the entire classified facility.
Right.
And then they get to General Hammond's quarters, which I only know are General Hammond's quarters because they're the nicest quarters, not because I've ever seen him in that room. And she's like, yep, this will work just fine. And then they're like, okay, we'll put some guards at the door. She's like, why would you do that? And they're like, well, we always put guards at the door. She's like, is it to protect you or to protect me? And they're like, well, it's not even protection. It's just kind of like, that's what we do. And she's like, no, you don't. And they're like, okay, no, we don't.
That's fine. No.
Can I tell you, watching this episode when I was already pissed off at the existence of men was something else.
I could believe it. Because I wasn't even mad at men, and I was mad at him by the end of this episode.
So then she's like, okay, everyone leave except for Daniel. And you just stay here and say these weird marriage vows with me. And I'm like, ma'am, he's already married.
Right.
And Daniel doesn't know that he's already married.
Mm-hmm.
But like, even when he wasn't under hypnosis, he's been acting like he wasn't already married. So like, fuck you, Daniel. That's it.
Well, like, also after all these months of not going to find Shari, maybe he's not even married anymore.
Right.
Who would know? We wouldn't know.
Sam meets up with Jack and she's like, hey, something is going on. And Jack's like, you're being jealous and silly. She's fine. Yeah. So then Daniel, because he's fucking Daniel, brings Hathor to the gate room to show her the Stargate. And
wait.
Yeah.
Didn't we get the reveal of how the goals came about before now?
No.
Okay, continue.
Yes. So she's like, I can't wait for you to serve me again, talking to the gate. And Daniel's like starting to remember that he has a brain. And he's like, in all the books that I read, like they say that Hathor is the most beautiful goddess in the world and that she's able to control men with just her beauty. And she's like, yeah, you think so? And I do
like,
that.
Yep.
But she's like, is that what you think? Now that you've met me, do you feel that way? And I was like, wow, I hate that I've been that girl before.
Oh, I think that's the Aries in you.
So much. So much. Oops. She's like, well, I have to control men because I have to birth all my children. And he's like, what the fuck do you mean by that? And she's like, I am the mother of all gold. And he's like, so you're like a queen bee, and this is like a beehive. This is okay. And I can guarantee you there was a commercial there when it originally aired.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But that was such a wild reveal. And such a, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, I can't think of this word that's in my head. Basically, an episode that's not trying to do too much. It just kind of slips in there, so you know what's what.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest reveal we've had so far.
Correct.
Honestly.
That is a good word.
Episode.
And so then we go to the computer room where Sam is researching Hathor because she has to do it on her own because fuck these men.
Wait. One more thought for this scene. So,
okay.
Big reveal, blows your mind. And then she's saying all of these things to seduce him, but they're so like, if you were in a bar and someone came up to you and started saying these things to you.
Oh, no, we're not at that seduction scene yet. No. This was when they're still in the gate room and they just find out that she...
Okay.
Because, no, I have notes about that also.
Excellent.
So Sam is, like, doing some research on the computer because she has to by herself because men suck. And Dr. Fraser comes in, who... Dr. Fraser's first name is Janet. It has not been said on the show yet. I think I asked my mom and she said, I don't think that we were ever given her first name until after season 1 because it was one of those, like, she might not stick around as a character kind of thing. But it was making me so mad to have this huge, like, woman-empowered episode and not remember her name. So I was like, fuck it, I don't care that haven't told us her name yet. And I just started writing Janet in my notes.
Fair. That's absolutely fair.
So Sam's like, hey, like, have you noticed that the boys are being fucking weird? And she's like, oh my God, yes. What the fuck? So they do some research and they find out that Hathor is basically just like every mythological love goddess that has ever existed is all based on the same person. And she was like very, very loved and she can control men until like one day she like turned her back on Ra and everybody hated her.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, what do we do? And they tried to figure it out. And they're like, well, how do you think she's controlling them? And they're like, well, it's got to be some kind of like chemical influence. I'm like, how do you get rid of the chemical? Like, well, really, the first thing we have to do is neutralize her. Which
should be with death, but okay.
Yeah, in sci-fi doctor terms, neutralize means fucking kill.
Yeah.
So then we go back to the bed quarters where Hathor is seducing Daniel Jackson. And he's like, how does this work? Like, how are you the mother of the Goa'uld? And she was like, well, when we go to a planet, we have to receive the code of life from the species in order to make sure that the larvae are compatible with that species. And he's like, the code of life. She's like, yes, but like in your species, it's so much more enjoyable to take it than in others. And I was like, the code of life, aka sperm. Yeah. What?
But could you imagine this conversation in a bar? Because for some reason, I mean, okay, I work at a bar, so maybe that's why. But literally, this conversation started, and I switched into modern day in a bar listening to it, and I could not stop laughing.
I just need to take the code of life from you.
It's so formal.
It's so formal and also so like breeder kink that like I can't even. I will absolutely say that to the next man I have sex with.
I really would like you to do that. And I would like you to tell me all about
Just kidding. I don't have sex.
Right. Yes. Correct.
No, really, I don't because I hate men. But
look, don't we all?
But then we get a flashback, or not flashback. We flash over to Sam, who is rounding up a militia of all of the women on the base, which fun fact is 5.
Right. So all the women are keeping their cool and getting ready to save the world, and I am here for it.
So here for it. And then Teal'c walks in, and they try to shoot him, and he's like, "Guys, let me stop. Put your guns down. I'm fine." And they were like, "You're a male." And he's like, "Well, technically, yes, that is true. I also have a Goa'uld in my stomach that stops me from being able to be tricked into by Goa'uld medicines." And they were like, "Oh, right. Yeah, that checks out."
Yeah, that tracks.
And he's like, my Goa'uld in my stomach is protecting me, but also something's very wrong. And then she's like, "Do you know what's going on?" He's like, "Well, the legend is that like she's going to breed with everyone and turn them all into little Goa'uld carriers and then destroy the planet."
Yeah.
And so basically, Teal'c tells Sam everything that Hathor just told us via Daniel.
I will say...
But without being as creepy.
Right. I will say the Goa'uld larva is much less disgusting than the adult Goa'uld. It's not great. I don't love it. But it's
it's definitely better.
Yeah.
But still gross. Like still not something I'm really looking to hang out with.
No, absolutely not. No.
Sorry, my computer decided to be dying.
Missed my stellar joke.
Oh, I did because I was trying to not lose the whole podcast to the death
I
of
guess
my computer.
Fair.
But also, please retell me your stellar joke.
I mean, the moment's passed. You were just saying you wouldn't want to hang out with the larva Goa'uld, and I said I'd rather hang out with men. And
that's such a good joke. I feel like such a dick that I missed it. Oh. But speaking of hanging out with both Goa'uld and men, my computer is being a piece of shit. I don't even know what's going on. Okay, well, we'll see.
The best.
Sam finds Daniel, and he is alone with no Hathor, but he is also like seriously in shock and like unable to speak, which is not a good sign. And then the other ladies are like, we've spotted her. She's headed to the locker room, which was very confusing to me at first.
I was
like,
super confused.
So then they go to the locker room and they find her inside like an ice bathtub, but full of hot water, just like birthing a fuck ton of gold.
My worst nightmare.
And then they went to try to kill her, and every man on base stood between her and them and were like, gonna have to get through us.
Morons. A whole lot of them.
Yeah. And then Sam and Janet and the other women get locked up, and they're complaining about how they always feel like outsiders in the Air Force and like how nobody really like treats them well, because like they're either being like over sexualized or like not treated like they are women at all.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're like, well, you know what?
I am so sorry. I just heard a child run into my building. I do not have children in my building. And I'm
so unfortunate.
This is the first time I've ever heard a child in my building. Ew. I've lived here for over a year. I do not care for that. Okay.
You're gonna have to move.
Oh, I do. That's unfortunate.
And then Janet's like, speaking of always being over-sexualized, I have an idea. And she's like, listen, what this chemical is doing to the men is turning them into giant horn dogs. Only she calls them libidinous, which is such a scientific name for thinking with your dick.
I will be using that term frequently now.
Jack, separate scene, obviously, goes to Hathor, and he's like, hey, listen, I am a pretty smart guy, and I'm kind of a ladies' man, so I don't really have this whole falling for every girl who tells me I'm pretty kind of bullshit, but like I feel weird around you. I'm not really sure what's going on here. And she's like, oh, I'll tell you. And then turns him into a Jaffa.
Here's the thing. This is another scene where I laugh. I understand I create a lot of this humor for myself because my brain goes in circles. And when she took off her like first layer of clothing, I don't know what I expected, but that wasn't it.
I absolutely, for a second, thought she was going to sleep with him too.
Well, I thought she was going to like strip down and have like her bra and underwear on, and then it was going to be sleeping with Chuck. And then that was not it. And it really caught me off guard.
Yeah, she fully had some weird orange disc on her stomach, and she like pressed into him and Jaffa-fied him. Then we go back to our female friends who are seducing the male guards.
And are so dumb.
Janet is like, hey, guards, there's 5 women alone in this room. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is, I would say something about that being unrealistic, but it's not.
It's not at all. And I was not surprised they fell for it. They're so dumb.
So dumb. So then they seduce these men and beat them to shit, lock them up, steal the keys, unlock Teal, knock General Hammond out, and lock him up too.
Look, you do what you gotta do.
And then they go back into the weird birthing pool room.
My least favorite sentence.
And I started to get angry because they find Jack passed out on the floor. But then Hathor comes back in. So they just hide and watch her stick Jack into the Goa'uld birth pool.
I was like, why haven't we shot her yet? Just take her right out.
Literally, my mom just goes, "What are you doing?" And I wrote Sam watches like a little bitch. But then they do pull him out as soon as Hathor is out of the room. And Janet full on reaches her whole ass hand into his little stomach pouch to make sure that he doesn't have a Goa'uld in there. And luckily he does not, but also what the fuck?
That is disgusting. Like probably the correct thing to do, but
disgusting.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, thank God he doesn't have a Goa'uld. And Teal'c's like, yes, but also he has no immune system because he's been turned into a Jaffa and he is going to die.
Right.
And then he goes, but I have an idea. So they take Jack to the sarcophagus to put him in there and try to heal him. And then I pause a lot when I'm watching this so I can take notes. So I paused it. And my mom goes, I have a question. And I said, is your question why they're doing this in the sarcophagus and why they're not going to do it to Teal'c to save him? Because I say to have the question.
So my thing, I somehow missed the sarcophagus was the Goa'uld chamber.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, where did this Goa'uld chamber come from? Have we ever heard of it before?
Yes.
Very confusing time. But your question is much more valid.
Question was, so they're going to save Jack from becoming a Jaffa and then not save Teal'c. And I was very...
Also, Teal'c's too far gone. Is that like a thing?
No, they absolutely could have saved Teal'c, except then the next scene happens and she fully blows up the fucking sarcophagus. And my mom goes, oh, there's our answer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, once again, Teal'c gets fucked.
Thank God he can at least heal himself.
Yeah. Yeah. But when Hathor blows up the sarcophagus, also a bunch of the dudes are helping her and they shoot Teal'c and Janet. And Jack comes out of the sarcophagus having zero recollection of anything he did while brainwashed. So Jack and Sam go to look for Hathor while Teal'c and Janet go to the infirmary. And we see that Hathor is back in her little birthing pod with all of her men around her. And she's like, I need Captain Carter. I'm going to kill her. And then in Daniel Jackson's only redeeming moment for the entire episode, even while brainwashed, he fully stands up for Sam.
I know.
He's like, I have been so brainwashed that I had sex with a Goa'uld to create Goa'uld babies, but also don't kill Sam. That's my best friend.
Right. That's my bestie. You can't.
And I was like, golf claps for Daniel Jackson in that moment. And Sam comes in and just fucking shoots Hathor.
Goes after it.
And the whole birthing pod catches on fire.
As was my transition into the episode.
Yes. But while everything's burning and the men are like coming out of their weird comas, Hathor just sneaks out. I don't know if you saw on the screen when
I did not, because I was surprised when I saw her at the Stargate.
Yeah, no, you just watch her run out of the room. Like, bitch, where did you come from?
Very distracted by the fire.
So was everyone in the room.
Which is probably why it was shot that way.
Yeah. And she sneaks out of the room. She goes to the gate. And she just leaves. Mm-hmm. Goes to Chulak.
Mm-hmm.
And all the men come out of their brainwash with no idea.
But also Jack's like, Sam's like, when are we going to get her? And he's like, not yet. And I was like, shocking. We're not going to go immediately right after her and kill her. We're going to wait for like 7 seasons to go chase her down.
Here's the thing. In this one instant, I do kind of have to go with Jack because they have to be prepared.
I mean, that's fair.
Because, like, if just being in the same room as her is going to turn their literal brains off, they can't just follow her.
Right.
So then we go back to the pool room one last time, and Dr. Fraser and Captain Carter are, like, trying to collect some semblance of samples from the burnt Goa'uld babies so that they can try to have some kind of, like, medical profile of the Goa'uld to then maybe, I don't know, save anybody's life ever.
Right.
I think that if Sam had known that shooting Hathor was going to blow up their entire stock of Goa'uld that they could potentially experiment, she might not have done it. But maybe she also might have because and then they're like, well, we'll have to look at what kind of DNA is in this Goa'uld, and Sam just goes, and Daniel goes, a good chunk of it might be mine.
And here's the thing. I have an issue with this statement because they all come out of this trance and don't remember anything that happened, but then Daniel remembers that he created the Goa'uld.
I think it's like a gradual wearing off of things. Like in
So
that first,
but like
Jack
didn't come back that fast.
Jack didn't do as much.
No, but he didn't seem to remember anything either still.
No, I think he did. By the time he said not a little bit of starting to piece things together, but he was also like always skeptical. I do think there's a semblance of like memories coming back because like General Hammond remembered that Sam smacked him in the head. So like there was probably in that first moment when she disappeared, it was like what the fuck, where am I? How did I get here? And then the memories kind of start to, and you're like,
Gotcha.
Oh. It's like when you wake up after a night of heavy drinking.
It's just like when I wake up in general. Sometimes.
Well, there's that. But so Daniel is fully aware that he is the baby daddy. Gross.
That is gross.
And then General Hammond comes in, and Sam is so freaked out that she's going to get in trouble for like gun butting her boss to the back of the head. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm just here to give you and Dr. Fraser medals for not being men.
Yes. The best medal you could receive.
Correct. I would like one of those.
I also would like one.
I think we should just like have them.
I agree.
We should just have them made. You are not a man. Medal, gold star.
I love it.
Who would you like to punch? Speaking of men.
All men, except Till.
There. I think really I'm gonna have to. I mean, all men, yes. But I'm really, really, really going to have to go in on Daniel. And I'm so sorry because he's so pretty, but he's so dumb.
I know.
So mad about it. He slept with a Goa'uld, knowing she was a Goa'uld.
And he was married.
He's a cheater. And I don't know if that's like, can you have interspecies sex?
They did.
That's the thing about sci-fi is then it goes into a whole other thing about like I don't know how I feel about interspecies mating, but then you have like humanoid species like in Doctor Who when the doctor kisses a human, nobody freaks out because like it looks like a person, but like also it's not a person.
I think I would be less concerned interspecies if it wasn't specifically Goa'uld. I can't get past that.
Fair.
You ask me again about a different species. Like if they were to like sleep with like the Nox, they're like humanoid and they are, they're just fairy-like. I think that'd be all right. They're both like people.
I mean, then again, we sleep with men.
the worst.
Who is your MVP?
Sam.
And just because we can't both pick Sam, I will pick Janet because they both deserve it.
Yes. Along with their You Are Not Men medals.
Yes, they deserve MVP and You Are Not a Man.
Mm-hmm.
What are your final thoughts about this episode? Because I know you have so many.
I wrote like a paragraph because I have thoughts.
I cannot wait.
Starting first and foremost, visually, this episode didn't do it for me. I didn't think there were any special effects. Everything was very like standard. It wasn't like, oh, look at that flash. It was just like, here is an episode of TV for you and other things will happen.
Yes.
But that said, I actually really liked this episode. And the reason why is because it feels like we're following up on the world building that's been set up for ages. Because we didn't just bring in another species. We didn't just bring in another world. We brought in someone to connect essentially where, I mean, she's been on Earth and now connect her back to Chulak and Goa'uld, and we find out that this is how the Goa'uld came about in the first place. Mm-hmm. So it answers a lot of questions you've had from the beginning.
Yeah.
And nothing, like the writing was so smooth that nothing that happened, I was like, I don't know if I would have thought this could happen in that first episode. Like, I was like, okay, that adds up. Like,
yeah,
it really made sense. And then it also makes sense to bring in Hathor because in the movie, we start with Ra, who dies, and now we have Apophis, and this goes into what my prediction is going to be. And I think that Apophis is going to be killed to save Sha're in the season finale, and that Hathor is going to come in and be the next Apophis for the next season or however long they decide to keep her on. And if that is the case, that adds up because I think we're going to have to kill Apophis to save Sha're. Like, I think that feels like that's going to have to happen. That's like this happened because of that thing. But they have to have someone to replace Apophis. So we have Hathor.
Yeah.
So for writing like perspective, this episode actually felt pretty brilliant to me because I feel like it set a lot of that up, and I feel like it was very continuous from what we've already seen. And then of course I also love the very strong woman in this episode.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was excellent. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
But I do predict that next episode is not going to line up nearly as clearly as this one did, and I'm going to be annoyed. That's the other thing with my prediction.
What? No. I don't know. But the episode's not actually connecting. That would never happen. Never. There is not a lot of trivia for this episode. Most of the trivia involves the fact that Hathor was running in the back behind the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's stuff like in the episode, Daniel says that he like is the only person to have ever written about cross-pollination of ancient cultures, which is just not true.
Right.
Just like blatantly not true.
Yes.
So there's that. But yeah. What a time.
What a time. I love this episode.
Good. I'm glad. When I watch the episode, try to guess how I think you're gonna feel about it. And I was like, I don't know, because I think that like the fact that we get answers and it's still in like the same mythology that it has been in, and that we have 2 actual ancient Egypt episodes in a row is going to be like good for her.
Mm-hmm.
But also there was a lot of fucking Goa'uld babies.
They're not as bad as the regular Goa'uld, so I could get past.
Honestly, I think they're worse because they're more maggoty looking.
Yeah, that's like it doesn't. You don't see its mouth and shrimp.
I know, but maggots might be the thing that bothers me most in the world.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I don't love them, but like, if it was a maggot or a Goa'uld, I'm gonna pick maggot every time.
I don't know that I would.
You see the teeth on the gold?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Every time.
Begrudgingly, I'll have to agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like that should be a social media poll this week. Would you rather be in a tub full of maggots or a tub full of gold babies?
Excellent.
I don't actually want the answers. I don't want to know.
I don't want to post that because I don't want to look for the pictures.
No, just do it. Just do it as a Twitter poll so that you don't need pictures.
Oh, okay, I can do that. Words, words, excellent.
Just words. Excellent, excellent. We can do words. Speaking of words on Twitter, I did make a friend on Twitter that I introduced to our podcast, and I hope he's listening. Because he just randomly in my Twitter feed, not like the Death and Aliens Twitter feed, it just popped up because he's like a friend of a friend. And he posted on Twitter and said, "Hi, yes, I just started watching Stargate SG-1, so I actually do have a boyfriend." And it was a picture of Daniel, and I was like, boy, would you enjoy our podcast.
Would you like us?
We have so much to say about Daniel.
Yes. Yes, we do.
So Henry, if you are watching this, welcome. If not, I don't blame you. It's a lot.
Dare you?
Well, no, but like if you're trying, I don't know. I just feel like we're a lot.
Well, I mean, fair, but we're like in a good way.
Oh yeah, no.
Like my friend Dom is watching Stargate for the first time and listening to us while he's watching.
Oh yay!
I mean, he's like most of the season behind, so like it'll be a second before he gets here.
That's fine. But that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, my own sister didn't even start listening to the podcast until Bates, and she only begrudgingly listens to the Stargate ones because then she can get to the Bates ones.
Excellent.
But I love her. On that note, if you feel that Daniel Jackson is also your boyfriend or would like to lay in a pool of maggots, please reach out. Send us an email.
If you want to lay in a pool of maggots at all.
Send us an email at deathandaliens@gmail.com. Or you can follow us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. Or you can follow me at EMKAY_superstar.
Or you can follow me at CECloud13.
And also, please do not actually message Courtney about maggots.
I will burn everything down.
And
but also, do not set yourself on fire.
Do not set yourself on fire unless you're in a pool of gold, and then it might be necessary.
Fine.
And please come back on Thursday to hear us talk about Bates Motel for our Thriller Thursday episode this week. We love you all very much.
Announcement. I forgot. Bates moved, but everything's fine. When I got on there, it still let me watch it for free with ads. Did you sign up all the way?
Yeah.
Do I pay for it or not know I paid for it?
I don't know. It's only available on Peacock Premium, so I think you pay for it and don't know that you pay for it.
Well, maybe I paid for it. Regardless, it's on Peacock Premium. It's not that expensive.
No.
I don't even know I'm paying for it, so it's not that expensive.
Yeah, if you watch it with ads, it's $4.99 a month. Without ads is $9.99 a month, or I paid $100 for a yearly subscription, and it saves me $20.
Oh, I did $5 a month.
My dad was like, "Are you kidding me? We don't watch commercials. Fuck it, pay the extra $10." I was like, "Okay."
I am not a rich person, so I watch.
And I sent a text to my family group chat that said, "Hello, we have officially reached peak streaming. Here's the username and password to my Peacock account. Thank you so very much."
Yes.
Because I think at this point we have Peacock, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, Prime, Paramount, BritBox, HBO Max. That might be it. That might be it.
All of that minus BritBox at Showtime.
Yeah.
Oh, and Apple TV. I have Apple TV Plus.
I don't.
It's in my whatever Apple Plus subscription. It gets TV, my Apple Music, extra storage for my phone, and Apple Games.
Oh, that reminds me, I really need to cancel my Amazon Music subscription. I didn't need to hide it. No, it's not that it's bad. It's just that I already pay for Spotify.
But it also sucks. Like Spotify and Apple Music are both way better than Amazon Music.
No, I mean, my dad loves Amazon Music. I just forgot that I paid for it because I did it because I was on a Fire TV. And so I just did a free thing so that I could have music playing in the background. And then the trial ran up and it wasn't free anymore. And I forgot.
Right. It sounds about right.
I mean, it's like $1 a month.
Well, that's not terrible.
Yeah. But
so
anyway, so do not go to Freevee, which is the new name of IMDb TV, by the way. It's Freevee. Don't go to Freevee. Go to Peacock. You're still watching Bates.
It's still good. It's still worth it. Please stay tuned.
Yes.
If you know me in real life, I will give you my password once I figure out what it is.
If you know me in real life, you're either my sister who already has my password or my cousin who already has Peacock. So that's probably it. But
I truly do not know. If you know me, though, you just text me or whatever, you know. Figure it out. I probably have to reset it because I don't even know what it is, but it's fine.
But with that, we will see you all later. Bye. Yes, I would like